almost at the end of August, Wednesday, August 30th. Welcome back to the Damon Bruce Show here on the Plus. It is wonderful to have you. I'm wearing headphones. That means Larry Kreuger's about to join us, and we got an awful lot of football to talk about. 49ers football rosters coming into focus. Obviously, the residue of Trey Lance and the incoming news that Nick Bosa is about to be signed. That better be the news that's incoming. We'll get to all that with Larry in just a second. We might even talk a little baseball because a little baseball was earned. A little topic time last night. Cobb taking a no as far as it can go before giving it up with 8 2/3. That's always going to sting. But wow, 130 pitches. I didn't even think that was possible anymore. Before we get to Larry, let me just start by thanking today's and everyday's sponsors. My man Ike at Ike Sandwiches, serving up delicious sandwiches. Go ahead and download that rewards app. You earn sandwiches for eating at Ike's. It's a pretty good deal. Check out the Wagyu pastrami sandwich that he's got right now, the Florin, which is a vegetarian sandwich I have actually ordered more than once, and that's saying something because the word vegetarian and I rarely go together, if ever. Thanks so much to our friends at Uncle Boys. We want you to go ahead and get a burger in the Inner Richmond, 4th and Balboa. Get yourself to Uncle Boys the next time you're looking for a burger. Little lumpia, little onion ring. I recommend all three, and I certainly recommend at night you wash it all down with a little blackened whiskey for your nightcap. I got to get Larry Kreuger a bottle of blackened before it's all said and done. He deserves some blackened whiskey in his life. And let me tell you, if you are interested in playing around this coming football season, you're going to want some advice where to place those bets. My man Stefan has got your advice lined up at bottomlinebets.com. Bottom line is they win 3 picks a day, guaranteed to be there for your consideration. This is a preeminent handicapper in Las Vegas. Find out for yourself. Daily, weekly, monthly subscriptions available. And if you're looking for a place to place those bets because you live in a state that hasn't allowed gambling yet, well, have I got the spot for you. Check out mybookie.ag. Use promo code Damon. All new customers, you get 50% off deposit matching up to $1,000 plus a $10 casino chip. Mybookie.ag. Use promo code Damon when you indeed sign up. So there we go. A whole bunch of Plus business is done, which means we can get to the business of saying hello to the one and only Larry Kreuger, who we welcome in with a sip of the day. Larry, congratulations. You get the sip of the day on your watch. How are you?
Doing great. Maybe I'll do my own poll.
There you go. There it is. Little coffee, little water. It's hotter out there in the East Bay where you are, so stay
97
cool.
today. 97.
No, thank you. No, thank you very much. I love the natural air conditioning that is San Francisco. Larry, an awful lot has happened around the 49ers since the last time you and I talked. And even though Trey Lance remains a headliner, there is a bigger issue, and that's where I want to start our conversation today. Nick Bosa and the 49ers have clearly been at an impasse. I mean, there's no other way to frame it or pretend that there isn't something going here other than a hurdle which the negotiation has not cleared. And basically a hurdle for a player of Nick Bosa's caliber comes down to one of 3, let's call them milestone markers, because he's looking to set the new value at his position. He's looking to become the highest paid defensive player in football history. And there's basically 3 different ways to go about doing that, right? You can have the largest annual average value. You can have the largest total deal, with a whole bunch of the math being a little fuzzy numbers at the end of your career, but you get to boast that I've got the largest deal ever. Or the most guaranteed dollars in a deal for a defender. Which do you think is the hill that is the hardest for this negotiation to climb over?
The guaranteed dollars. Because there's a chance that Nick Bosa wants, I think the record would be 110 or something like that, but he may want well north of that. The talk is, the latest that I've heard is that both sides feel they'll get a deal done in the next couple of days, which is a good thing. It will be record money in AAV. It'll be record money in guarantees. And then now the only thing is, how far of a record will it be? Will it be 110 million guaranteed? Will it be 100 million guaranteed? Will it be 130 million guaranteed? Will the whole thing be guaranteed? I don't know. That part is, that's what this negotiation I really think is about.
Do you believe in any way, shape, or form that there was an attempted trade of Nick Bosa, that they got to a negotiating point, they backed away and said, all right, let's quietly go about searching for a team that might be very interested? I assume that there would be a lot of teams interested in a player like Nick Bosa. Do you think that conversation actually ever came out? I'm sure you saw there was a Reddit post. I mean, by the way, this is a terrible way to start any question, but Larry, I saw on the internet that the 49ers were thinking about trading Nick Bosa. Do you put any value in that?
Well, I mean, I think they had to consider their options. I think you would be negligent if they didn't at least, dip their toe in the water and find out what was out there. But at the end of the day, they badly need what he does. They're very thin at defensive end. Even if they have him, they're very thin at defensive end. So, I don't know what you would trade him for. I mean, I would imagine Miami probably was interested, but I would have wanted Christian Wilkins, right out of the rip, to start and probably something significantly more than that.
Well, and here's
maybe
the thing.
Jalen Phillips. I mean,
no team is trading for Nick Bosa and giving up assets that they think, would prevent them from winning now. Because if you're trading for Nick Bosa, you're in win right now mode.
Yeah, but I mean, the you're not getting a guy who's the second best player in the game or the third best player in the entire game without giving up huge compensation. So, I mean, yeah, you in an ideal world, yeah, why would you trade for Bosa and trade players that you have on the roster? But, I mean, the 49ers don't have to give him to you. There's a bunch of teams in football that all would like to have him. So, you got to make an attractive offer. So it's not really about what you want. It's about what makes the deal go. But I just don't think I think it's a non-starter across the board. How many teams have the cap room to accommodate that kind of a deal? How many teams have the assets to send back to the 49ers to satisfy them in a trade? To me, the trade was never likely.
I'm guessing it would be a new record had they actually decided, yeah, we're gonna trade Nick Bosa. Dealing with him is cost prohibitive, and the 49ers would have become the first team in the history of football to trade 2 top 3 picks in about 3 days from each other. That would have been a bad look.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, the Niners need the games to start because they're having a rough post preseason period here. They're getting raked over the coals nationally for the Trey Lance trade. It's funny how that works, too. Last week, Trey Lance was like, this guy can't play. He's broken.
Right. He was their problem, a massive problem.
This week, it's like, oh, my God, they did him wrong. And, good way to go, Trey. And he'll be awesome elsewhere. So we'll see. We'll see.
You predicted the Trey Lance trade. Did you think that the 4th rounder was going to be a reality? When I heard mid-rounder, I thought, all right, well, that's a really nice way to couch a 5th rounder. But here comes Jerry Jones, who, like Jerry does, he acted apparently very independently of this. Dak didn't find out until it was actually over and done with. And there is, to me, this whole thing is fascinating. I mean, it's fascinating from the entire you walk around the circumference, the entirety of the entire trade, the Trey Lance era, whatever you want to call it. It's fascinating from every angle, including the fact that the only GM interested and the only GM that really overpaid for Trey Lance is someone that basically the world of football acknowledges as an out-of-touch, holding his own franchise back GM like Jerry Jones.
Yeah. I mean, it's also really interesting to me that, a lot of people think that Kyle Shanahan didn't want Trey Lance, and now Mike McCarthy's owner trades for Trey Lance, and I guess without his approval. So, so it's like, is Trey really going to a better situation? I don't know. I don't know if he's going to a better situation or not. It is interesting how he needs to play. He needs to play. They trade him to Dallas. He's still not going to play.
I would even argue he's going to play less because Cooper Rush is about established a second quarterback as you'll find in football. There was a point when he was filling in for Dak last year, the conversation in the Dallas Metroplex area actually became like, are the Cowboys better with Cooper Rush? I mean, that happened.
He's 5-1. He's 5-1 as a backup, when he gets in there. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know what the story's going to be for Trey, but he needed a fresh start. The 49ers felt like they needed to move on. I'm not really sure why. Did they think it was a distraction? Was it about their cap? Was it about Brandon Allen?
I think it was about a fourth rounder. I mean, I just think they heard a number that they didn't think that they were going to hear. So they're like, yeah, let's do that.
I guess. I mean, a fourth round pick is really moving the dial. Who was last year's fourth round pick?
Good question.
Exactly. Yeah. What I mean? So it's like, it's one of those things where, we'll see. I personally believe that the 49ers are keenly aware of all the dialogue and how ugly it had gotten around the quarterbacks, and they just wanted it to go away. And so this was a way to make it go away.
Who's responsible for that ugly dialogue?
People that feel like they know more about, who can play and who can't play and who's good and who's not good than football people, fans, media, people who were just convinced that Trey Lance was the guy. I mean, obviously the Niners were convinced Trey Lance was the guy more than anybody, but the fans, were still convinced because they never saw him fail. They just and when I say they never saw him fail, they did see him fail. They just didn't see him fail dramatically. I mean, they didn't score hardly any points when he was quarterbacking.
He failed with reasons, right? The rain in Chicago, the right game plan wasn't inserted for him. Too many runs, like everything came with excuses.
Yeah, there were a lot of. I mean, the bottom line is he was raw. And I don't think the 49ers had any inkling of how raw he was. And so, anytime it's the same thing, the same problem the Warriors had. I mean, there's a reason the bad teams pick up top and the good teams pick on the bottom. And then when the good teams suddenly get the top pick, you got to go for guys who are ready to go. And they went for a guy that wasn't ready to go and then seemed shocked when they realized he wasn't ready to go. And then I just think that something happened in this offseason where Jed probably went to them and said, hey, you know what? Quarterback excuses, quarterback development, none of these are going to be acceptable excuses for you guys for not winning the Super Bowl. So do whatever you got to do. And I think that impetus or that push, sped up their timeline and forced them to go with the quarterback that's ready to win right now, and that's clearly Brock Purdy.
So, like I said, it's fascinating from no matter how you look at it. Where he was, the choice that was made, the failure of the development. There's a lot of people wearing the scarlet red letter of you screwed up when it comes to Trey Lance, but no one more so than Kyle Shanahan, who we all said he's finally got a chance to pick the quarterback that he envisions his career being tied to. Like he finally gets the bite at the apple that he has been so desirous of as a head coach. And he's so hard in particular with his quarterbacks. So he has, the ultimate opposite choice here. It could have been Mac Jones coming from Alabama with all that SEC snaps and experience, or this raw bit of clay that was Trey Lance. And do you think Kyle got talked in to Trey Lance? Did he fool himself on Trey? Either way, he picked incorrectly. Who do you think is most responsible for Kyle making that pick? Is it Kyle himself? It damn well better be. How about that? I mean, if Kyle didn't solely make that decision, what a coward.
Well, there's other forces at work. I'm sure the owner has his opinion. The general manager has his opinion. The Niners probably to some degree listen to their fans. I think the Niners have lacked quarterback conviction for years, going back to Aaron Rodgers and Alex Smith, going back to Druckenmiller and Jake Plummer. I mean, going back even further than that, I think they've lacked, vision and clarity decide. I think they've picked wrong, and they've analyzed it wrong. They haven't had a conviction. They didn't have a conviction on Aaron Rodgers, so they went with Alex Smith. They didn't have a conviction on Mac Jones, so they went with Trey Lance. I think at the end of the day, I think they wanted somebody who was dynamic, and so it came down to Fields, Lance, and Jones. And then I think character-wise, I think they liked Trey's character more than Jones's. I think they were nervous about the history of Ohio State quarterbacks and how, when you think of Justin Fields, he had 4.4 flat speed, but he took a ton of sacks. So it's like, there's a chance that maybe he didn't really see it, and he wasn't processing fast enough. So I think they just ultimately, it was a decision between Mac Jones and Trey Lance, and they fell in love with Trey Lance, the story and Trey Lance's character and who he was as a person and his intellect, and they made the wrong call. Not that Mac Jones was the right call, but I think they misgauged how much time they had to develop this quarterback and how much time it was going to take to develop him. And I think they just misgauged it. And then and I don't think they were ever, at the end of the day, they were never really committed to Trey Lance. I don't buy that. They were committed to the idea of Trey Lance, which is a quarterback on a rookie deal who's dynamic athletically, who can extend plays with his legs. And guess what? They wound up with that exact player in Brock Purdy, and he checked all the boxes. He's dynamic. He can make late in the down throws. He's got escapability. He's ready to play, and he's on a rookie deal. And once Brock checked all their boxes, it was just a matter of time. Trey was moving on.
So let's say, we're living in the Marvel universe, multiple timeline, and we can go back in time. And instead of drafting Trey Lance, the 49ers drafted another player. Let's say that player was Jamar Chase. Does that mean Jimmy Garoppolo is still this team's quarterback at this point in time? Like, who would you have wanted other than, the clear mistake that Trey Lance became? They had a premium pick, and they squandered it.
Well, okay, so people always tend to forget all the risk when they're looking at things. Hindsight's 20/20. I've heard so many people go, they should have picked Micah Parsons. Okay, it's easy to say now. Micah Parsons in that draft should have gone top 5, and the only reason he fell was because he had a really ugly hazing incident that you can Google and research at Penn State that obviously didn't, made people question his character. So that's why he fell down in the draft. Now, maybe it was an isolated deal, and maybe he's not a bad guy, but there were a lot of people going into that draft that weren't sure. Jamar Chase.
And leave it to the Cowboys to be like, yeah, we don't even give a shit.
Yeah. I mean, Jamar Chase, I think was the special player. But do you trade up and give up those kinds of assets for a wide receiver? Probably not. So, I mean,
Penei Sewell would have been maybe the choice. Patrick Surtain could have been a choice.
Kyle Pitts.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, you want to talk about disappointments, right? Kyle Pitts hasn't done much in his career yet.
He's had some injuries. I mean, Jamar Chase was, to me, the slam dunk. I loved Jamar Chase going into that draft. I thought he was the best wide receiver I'd seen in the SEC in years. He was the best. He was the dominant player on their national championship team. He was a sophomore that year. So, I had Jamar Chase penciled in, but you know what? At that point they were going quarterback. Personally, if you ask me what I think they were thinking, I think they were thinking that, at that point it was still kind of like unknown who was going where. I think they like Zach Wilson. I really do. I did interviews with Steve Young going into that draft. Steve knew Zach. Zach wanted to be a Niners. Steve knows Shanahan. He felt like Zach was the guy that Shanahan wanted, but he went 2 in front of them. And to this moment, he's considered a bust as well. So
Yeah. No, it's look, it's tough to look at, and we've played 1 week of USC football, and Caleb Williams, obviously having won a Heisman Trophy, has a ton of attention on him, and he looks spectacular. I mean, he really does. He's very, very special. You can see it. He could win a second Heisman. That means nothing to the NFL. I've already got people saying there is guaranteed he is going to be the most can't miss quarterbacking prospect. His comp is Patrick Mahomes. Write it down right now. There's a very good chance that the kid you're watching play quarterback at USC will get to the NFL and not be able to even function on the field. It happens all the time. And this is something that I keep saying, and I get portrayed as, some Debbie Downer. Nothing proves that you can play in the NFL until you're playing in the NFL. And that works both ways. It takes great prospects and reduces them to you don't belong here. And also, and I don't know how this happens, but it does all the time, overlooked prospects finally step into the NFL and they're like, hey, you know what? I do belong here. I'm going to be a better pro player than I was even a college player. And that is the big bet that they've made on Brock Purdy.
And Brock Purdy's, rewarded them by playing incredible football. Yeah, I mean, everybody's so convinced that Caleb Williams is the guy. And I like Caleb Williams. Don't get me wrong. I mean, 42 touchdowns, 5 picks.
But we don't know. That's the thing.
But I'll tell you who I think is really, really
with certainty.
I like Michael Penix from UW. I mean, who's not even projected to go in the first round.
From Indiana.
Who's that?
Penix transferred from IU.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot about that. That's right. Penix. But Penix has got one of the greatest arms I've ever seen. I watched them last year in one of the windiest nights I think I could ever remember. I mean, they showed the goalpost. They were swaying, and he was just throwing rockets, cutting right through the wind. So Penix has got a special arm. He's got the Mahomes arm.
Yeah, he's a difference maker too, because I mean, diving for the pylon in Bloomington to beat Penn State, like the guy is a little bit of a one-man army. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see if he can become a stalking horse in what feels like after week 0 is wrapped up. We already got Caleb Williams sitting, pole position for Heisman once again. But a lot of college football remains out there, to say the least. Larry Kreuger, it is good to have you. I'm going to ask you a big, broad question. You answer it however you want. I'm not going to lead the witness, and then we'll come back around to how we're applying it to what we're talking about right now. But if I asked you, please, Larry, would you define what you think a quarterback whisperer is, and is Kyle Shanahan matching up to what your definition of quarter whisperer is? Do you think Kyle Shanahan's a quarterback whisperer? Yes or no?
Well, I mean that he can pick quarterbacks or he can coach them, because I personally, don't think that he's the greatest quarterback coach. I think his greatest thing is that he's got an offense that works and he can produce points. And his offense can score. So
he's a mismatch whisperer. That's what he is.
He seems like a nice guy, but at the end of the day, I think he's cutthroat. He's a great play caller who can find and put a defender in conflict and go at him and attack him, and I think that's his strength. As far as picking quarterbacks, no, I don't think that's his thing. And as far as coaching up super raw quarterbacks, I don't think that's his thing either. I think he's more about his greatness is in play calling, the play action fusion game, I think play sequencing. That's what he's truly great at.
I think like my definition of quarterback whisperer, I have to give 2 answers. There's the guy who takes the unrealized ball of clay and turns them into a functioning quarterback. And then there is the guy who takes that functioning quarterback and polishes them up to, okay, you are really getting good at this. Maybe the word elite isn't applied to you, but you are Pro Bowl consideration type of level of quarterback. And I think that is where Kyle comes in. He can't take I don't know if he can play and bring him all the way to player, but he can take the guy who is a player and turn them into the best version of the player they can be. and you want to talk about fascinating experiments, Jimmy Garoppolo with the Raiders this year, to me, is going to be as interesting a 49ers story as you can attach to the 49ers in another NFL team's locker room. Like, which way would you bet? Jimmy has a better year without Shanahan in his ear, or Jimmy regresses massively, and you're talking about, Aiden O'Connell by week 8 in Las Vegas?
I think he's going to play well because he's now at that point in his career where he's starting to understand that eliminating negative plays is as important as creating, positive plays. So, the one thing that Garoppolo's never understood that Brady gets and Russell gets and Breeze got and Rodgers gets is that you're not going to, there's, 65 snaps in a game. You're not going to win all 65. Jimmy's gone out there and just like, I'm going to try to win all 65. And sometimes you got to throw it away. Sometimes you got to throw it away and go to the next down. I think he finally conquered that mountain last year. So I think he'll play efficient football. He's got some good weapons. But ultimately, I think he's going to get, he's a tough guy who likes to stand in against the rush. He doesn't have a great line. And I think he'll wind up getting hurt. My guess is in the first half of the season, and the whole second half of the year will be, the rookie from Purdue. And I think the rookie from Purdue is going to outplay him.
If you are in here for the very first time, welcome. If you are a Damon Bruce Show plus or diehard, welcome back. Please hit subscribe, hit notify. And if Larry brought you here today, and we have a really good number of people in the room right now, Larry, I'm assuming a lot of them followed you over here. Go ahead and give us a subscribe, and you won't miss a thing that Larry and I will be doing together this football season. And we're going to be doing quite a bit together once football season gets rolling here, talking to some out-of-town media members, some coaches along the way, and really getting to know not just the Niners, but who the Niners are going to be playing on a week-to-week basis. And have you already started thinking a little bit about this Pittsburgh game, Larry? What kind of chances do you got to? How about this? I'm going to start the year getting the 49ers right on you might lose this game alert. I think this Pittsburgh game is going to be a little bit of a headache for the 49ers.
Well, I mean, on paper, the Steelers are always tough to beat week 1 at home under Mike Tomlin. I think the numbers show it. I think they're like 8-1 or something like that in the last 9 home games in week 1. There at Heinz Field. But this one favors the Niners. The Niners should win this game. I mean, either the Steelers will go with Dan Moore at left tackle or the rookie Broderick Jones going up against Nick Bosa. That's advantage Niners, even though Bosa may be on a snap count.
Right? Better be Nick Bosa.
But then there's also the Niner receivers, I think right now are playing, Debo, Ayuk are special. And Joey Porter Jr.'s in his first game. Patrick Peterson's long in the tooth. Chandon Sullivan is their nickelback. I think the Niner receivers will party against the Steeler corners. So I think it's an advantage for the 49ers. I know a lot of people are thinking Steelers. And the run D for the 49ers is a concern. But if the Niners' run D shows up, I feel good about their chances to not just win, but to maybe win big.
That run defense that we saw in the preseason, they just got gashed up the middle. They got gashed on all read option, zone option plays. And like that's I don't even know if we have anything to evaluate because these snaps were happening without Bosa, without Armstead, without Hargrave. And I think that trying to tell you about what the defensive line is going to look like until you see those 4 guys playing together, you have no idea.
Yeah, well, that's true. There's a lot of unknowns going into week 1. And so, it always makes it a little dicey. But, I feel good about the 49ers' chances. They started slow last year. I think they're really eager to start fast. A lot of it's going to depend on, the 49er defensive front. Can they put heat on Pickett? Can they stop the run? I mean, if they can't do either, it's going to be a long day.
Special teams, is it about to haunt the 49ers through another regular season, basically? I mean, to me, the preseason has shown that they lack a strong kickoff game, kick return game, punt return game. They lack kicker health. They lack a punter who has looked good so far. I mean, Wishnowski's got a lot of house credit. I think he's going to get right. But special teams, once again under Kyle Shanahan, seems to be stepping into a year with a massive question mark around it.
Well, there is. I mean, who's going to be the kicker? Is it Jake Moody? Is it going to be a veteran? Is it going to be a veteran fill-in like Tristan Vizcaino? Are they going to put Moody on the IR, set to return? Mitch Wishnowski hurt his back punting.
What's Robbie Gould want for like 2-3 weeks of work, right?
Yeah, exactly. But Mitch Wishnowski's had a bad preseason. Deshaun Jameson was a nice return man, but he left now to Carolina. He got claimed off waivers this morning. So, Ronnie Bell's a decent return guy, but they don't have Ray McLeod. They're very much a work in progress. I mean, Brian Schneider is a good special team coordinator, but I think it's safe to say they're not 100% on special teams coming into the year.
Another guy that they don't have, Deshaun Jameson, who you were high on in this preseason, just got claimed off waivers by the Carolina Panthers. So that's another name not in the mix as we're starting to watch the 53-man come into focus, Larry. Any cut that really surprised you? I saw that Marcelino McCrary-Ball didn't make the team. I know but both you and I were high on him, having a lot of opportunity this year. Maybe he comes back and joins this team as part of their practice squad if he indeed does clear waivers. I've seen 3 names already claimed from the 49ers, which means the NFL is interested in the Niners leftovers, and there were certainly a lot of years where you and I were doing pre and post where the 49ers would get to cut down day. They would cut those guys, and those guys would never play football again. So there, I guess, is a feather in Shanahan's cap as he seems to be plucked of some of his GMing feathers these days.
Yeah, I don't love what they've done on the offensive or defensive line. I mean, on the offensive line, they kept 4 backups: John Feliciano, Matt Pryor, Jalen Moore, and Nick Sakel. And I don't know that any of them are all that good. And to me, they're better guys that were cut in other camps. So they went heavy on the offensive line, which was kind of baffling because usually your starters are the only ones that play. And then they went real light on the defensive line, which is even more baffling because last year, Ebukam, Menahue, and Willis averaged 91 snaps in their 3 playoff games. And they're literally going into, if Bosa is not signed, right now their defensive ends are Drake Jackson, Cleveland Farrell, and that's it. Robert Beal Jr., but he's been hurt all summer with a hamstring. So they're remarkably thin at defensive end, and I got to think that they will rectify that in the next 24 hours.
Did Kerry Hyder get cut?
Yes.
How that? Why?
Well, he was looking very old this summer. I mean, he's lost a lot of his explosion, so he's not the same player. Austin Bryant got cut as well, who was brought in from Detroit.
You kind of called that one. You weren't happy with the size. I mean, I remember the first day you and I were out at training camp. You're like, he's looking small.
Well, his legs are so skinny. He doesn't play the run. I mean, but he might be signed to the practice squad. Jordan Willis, by the way, got cut by the Raiders. I expect the Niners to try to get him back. There was a bunch of defensive ends. The Bears cut Trevis Gibson. Tampa cut Jose Ramirez. Dallas cut Tyrus Wheat and Ben Banagu. So there's a bunch of guys out there who, Chase Winovich got cut by Houston. Ali Gay got cut by Houston. There's a bunch of defensive ends that are better than what they have that were cut, and now it's just a matter of how many of them will they pick up. They probably need to put a couple on the active roster, and they probably need to add a couple to the practice squad as well. So I would imagine you're going to see the 49ers add 2 or 3 defensive ends in the next couple days.
What is the most surprising? By the way, first of all, Nancy Adams saying the 2 greatest sports talk authorities in the Bay. So we got one fan, Larry.
There we go. There she is.
Nancy's on board. Thank you, Nancy. A lot of love coming in all over the text line. Thank you very, very much. I'd get distracted and I'd waste Larry's time giving us pats on the back if I read them all. But thank you. Hit that like button. Subscribe to Larry's page. I don't need to tell anyone to do that. People are doing that in mass. Go ahead, give us a little subscription too, and you won't miss a thing that he and I are doing together all football season long. What is the most surprising cut as far as you're concerned?
I would say Deshaun Jameson, who, to me, you don't cut good corners, especially when they can also, double as dynamic return men. But they chose Isaiah Oliver over Deshaun Jameson, and I think it was a mistake.
When it comes to Kyle Shanahan, we're going into year 7 now. It's amazing. 6 seasons with Kyle already under his belt. Going into year 7 with Kyle Shanahan. Obviously, it's not the permanent letter grade. There are several years of Kyle still on the horizon. He is not in jeopardy of losing a job, even though some people want to try to speak that into existence. The 49ers are incredibly happy with the job that Kyle has done. And that is really, Kyle's got an audience of one. He needs to please Jed York. As long as Jed York is happy with the job that he's doing, he has an awful lot of job security. But Larry, if you had to give him a fair and honest letter grade, what letter grade would you give Kyle heading into year 7?
B+. I mean, I would say it's, a solid. I mean, they've been in 3 of the last 4 NFC Championship games. And they've done it without top tier quarterbacks for the most part. So, I mean, I'm impressed by that. But then the fact of the matter is they've bungled a bunch of draft picks at the top of the draft, and if they hadn't, they probably would have won a championship by now. But to me, you have to judge them against the rest of the league. You can't just judge them against. You can't just pretend that it's them, Kansas City, and Philly, and everybody else is not in the league. The rest of those teams are in the league, and the Niners are better than all of them. So I would say a solid B+.
I set the over at 11 wins this year. Over, under, or push?
I'll say push.
I think that's. I think they're 11-6. Yeah. I don't think there's a 12-win team in this league. I just feel like this is a season where the NFL is going to cannibalize itself. I really do. We've been trending towards that. The emergence of truly great football teams is harder and harder to find. And really, we're thankfully watching a level of incompetence sort of being swept away from the NFL. Now, what could possibly, Larry, push the 49ers into a 12-win territory where now you're really in position to host the NFC title game, and that's got to be on the chalkboard in Kyle's office list of goals for this year, host the NFC title game. If we have the Arizona Cardinals in full tank mode, because they just cut Colt McCoy, they got very little faith in Kyler Murray. So if they are in the Caleb Williams come home sweepstakes, and then the Los Angeles Rams maybe even find themselves in that situation. My God, we saw what Matthew Stafford's wife is talking about, how, Matthew's like a fish out of water now in this very young locker room. No one makes eye contact with my husband. They all look at their cell phones. I saw that on the internet, which is, again, I hate saying that. But Larry, I saw that on the internet. What if I told you that the best path the 49ers had to getting to 12 wins is because 2 teams in their divisions might be among the 2 worst teams in football this year? The NFC West goes from, hey, everybody, this division is stacked, to it's the Niners, maybe the Seahawks, probably not the Rams, and definitely not the Cardinals.
Yeah, I think the Niners are going to sweep the division 6-0. I really do. I think Arizona's bad. The Rams are playing for future years. They got cap problems. They're thin. Seattle's 26th against the run, 26th. And Bobby Wagner doesn't make that kind of, he doesn't eat up that kind of difference. So Niners are going to go 6-0 in the division. I really think so.
Well, that would be a really good piece of news if you could just mail that to the 49ers right now. They would love to get that letter. You're 6-0 in division, so now you just got to go handle your business everywhere else. That could get them to 12 wins. But I'm just at Arizona. Even when Arizona sucks, they always bite them once, don't they? I don't know how they do it, but they do.
Yeah, I mean they always play the Niners tough for the most part, but yeah, Arizona, the Rams, Seattle, to me those teams don't look like they're in the Niners league at all.
Here's a question that is kind of along the lines. Oh, no, I highlighted the wrong question. It was along the lines of what I was going to ask you next, Larry. This is from Eldito Solario Espinoza. And I have not seen that name before, so welcome. Hello. Please subscribe. How quick is the blame game going to happen if the 49ers start slow because of that D-line? Well, I think it's certainly out there, but it won't be nearly as loud as if Brock Purdy has a bad game in Pittsburgh. If Brock Purdy has a bad game or showing in Pittsburgh, you're going to have people headbutting the panic button after 4 quarters of football. There's no doubt about it.
Well, it's just the nature of the game of fans, right? I mean, the Niners have a tough first 3 games, really. I mean, they play Pittsburgh on the road where they're really tough in week 1. And they're coming off a strong preseason. The Rams are really thin, but playing them on the road in LA in week 2, they'll be at full strength. So that will be a tough game. And then the New York Giants are one of the better teams in the conference as well. And that's going to be a short week turnaround at Levi's. It will be at home, but those are 3 tough games. And then Dallas in week 5. I mean, the Niners are going to have to, they always start slow. But this year, they're not going to be afforded that luxury. So I think the schedule challenges them greatly off the start, but I think they'll be up to it.
I think they're going to be a really good football team. How good? Good enough to win the Super Bowl? We got a long way to go before we even get to ask that question, much less get the answer to that question. But I will say, Larry, this is a massive, not just 1, but 2 years for the Shanahan era. Like, it either goes forward over the next 2 years for the next 5, 6, 7 years, or the next 2 years will be the beginning of the end of the Kyle Shanahan era, because the price of poker right now is reach and win the Super Bowl. I mean, that's a big ask. It's a big ask for anyone, any team. I've been saying, Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, they might have the best team in football. Even with the best team in football, best quarterback, best coach, winning a Super Bowl isn't easy. It's never easy. The 49ers need to win the Super Bowl under the formula that they have right now with such an inexpensive quarterback room and money spent everywhere else. And if they don't do it in the next 2 years, they have to flip the entire roster basically and start over with a new formula. So the pressure is real. There might not be you're about to lose your job level pressure on Kyle Shanahan, but just the pressure that he puts on himself. I mean, he is aged like a president, Larry. Go back and look at year-long Kyle Shanahan photos. He's grayer than I am right now.
It's a rough job, man. So it's 100-hour weeks, tons of stress. I think if Kyle were really, really smart, he would take a step back after this year from personnel duties and just coach.
What if they
because that's what he's
Kreuger?
best at.
Let's bring in Larry Kreuger to run 49ers front office.
Well, I don't know about Larry Kreuger, but I would definitely bring in a draft consultant. Why not? Scott McLuhan, John Dorsey. There's guys out there that have big time credentials that I think are worth consulting with, and I think they ought to examine their drafting and their mistakes that they've made. And Kyle's an awesome coach. What are the odds that a guy who's such a great coach would also have a different, totally unique skill set in the ability to pick players? These are 2 totally different skill sets, and it's rare that one guy can do both. And it's not. He doesn't. I don't think he's that guy. So Bill Walsh, was a great play caller, and he was hit and miss in the draft. For every Jimmy Johnson, who's a great coach and a great drafter, there's a dozen guys who can't, who can coach, coach circles around anybody, but they're not great personnel guys. Bill Belichick is one of them.
Is there We're going to end with a question that'll really make everyone angry. Is there a walkaway price where you push back from the negotiating table with Nick Bosa? I mean, we're kind of seeing the same thing happening in Washington, and Chase Young has been a little bit more of an injury case, but, Washington kind of wants to get out of having to pay Chase Young premium edge defender. Here's the deal. Like the $30 million threshold is basically reserved for quarterbacks. And we're entering the realm of, okay, so running backs are officially underpaid. Are we beginning to overpay defensive ends?
I think so, because now a 3-step drop, you can totally neutralize a top-tier pass rush and just get the ball out quickly and basically render them almost borderline useless. So, yeah, I don't know that there's a price that I could say, okay, it's this number, because the cap's so fluid and we're talking about guaranteed dollars versus, base pay and so on and so forth. But I don't have all the information. It's like, I don't know what's out there in a trade. If you told me the Dolphins were sitting right there and they're saying, here's Jalen Phillips, Christian Wilkins, and a number 1 pick, I don't know. I might be willing to take that. And who knows? I don't know what's out there. Maybe there's nothing close to any good, attractive trades out there. But there's always got to be some walkaway number. I just don't know what it is. I'd say, probably 110 million guaranteed. Anything more than that is probably like, Nick, come on, seriously.
You watch a little Giants baseball last night? Were you sitting on the edge of your seat watching that?
I did. I jinxed it.
No.
I jinxed it. I said, oh, look, they got a no-hitter.
God damn it, Larry.
Yeah, I jinxed it.
It's your fault. I'll tell you when I really thought it was going to happen. I thought it was going to happen when Slater made that catch, and that catch is A++. That was maybe that catch was better than the Gregor Blanco catch. That's how incredible that catch was, almost, from Austin Slater last night. And every no-hitter, perfect game, flirtation with historic greatness needs a defensive play like that to happen. I'm like, oh my God, they just got the signature defensive play of the game to happen. And then when Cobb comes back out for the 9th inning and he is 1 pitch, 1 out, I'm thinking, oh, it's set up now. It's really going to happen. Oh, dude, losing a no-hitter with 2 outs in the 8th inning. That stings. And look, he handled it great. He had, he's got enough experience in this game to know that was a very, very special night. What'd you think of the Kapler leaving him out there to dust off the game and finish? I figured, all right, well, he gave up the hit and he's given up the shutout, so they're definitely going to go get him. But they let him finish the game. That's like a new way of thinking for this regime, for goodness sake.
Yeah, I liked it. It's funny. It's the second time I've seen the Reds end a Giant no-hitter with 2 outs in the 9th inning. It happened in a game that I was at where Scott Gereltz had a no-hitter, Damon, from 8 2/3. And I forget if it was Paul O'Neill or Barry Larkin.
Break that up. I mean, that's going back.
Yeah, it was 89. It was 89. Scott Gereltz. I was there. Gereltz had 1 out away from a no-no, and I think it was either O'Neill or Roberto Kelly or Barry Larkin. One of those 3 guys, I think, broke it up.
Well, dude, nothing breaking us up. It's great to have you back here, Larry, as always. It had been a while, and an awful lot had happened since we had touched base. I want to let everyone know Larry and I are going to be touching base much more often. He'll be appearing on my channel more often throughout the week because mornings are good for him when I can appear with him at night on his channel. That'll certainly happen as well. It is always great to talk to you, Krug. You are among the best in the world at what you do, and when it comes to covering the 49ers, there's no other voice that I have more respect for than yours. So thank you for lending it to this channel again. Thank you for bringing in a whole bunch of your subscribers along the way. And because we are good to our sponsors, why don't you tell everyone where we're going to lunch on Friday?
We're going to hit Pig in a Pickle. We'll be there in Emeryville, probably early afternoon. Stop by and say hello. We could do like a mini meet and greet. Join us in Emeryville at Pig in a Pickle for a little lunch. And I appreciate you, bro. And we'll do this quite a bit this year.
There he is, the one and only Larry Kreuger. Larry, thank you so very much, man. You take care. Stay hydrated. Stay cool in the awfully hot East Bay.
Off on my way to practice to hear John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan speak this afternoon.
All right. I'm sure you got a lot of good video, a lot of instant reaction. Babe, by the way, I can't help but notice everyone who puts instant reaction on their videos gets a lot of view. I think I'm just going to label every video from now on instant reaction, whether I'm instantly reacting or not.
That or breaking
news. Instantly reacting to breaking news.
Yes.
Imagine that. Imagine the views that would get. Exactly. You're the best, Larry. Thank you.
Later, man.
There he is. Larry Kreuger, the one, the only. That's my guy. Great to have him on. And I know how much you all appreciate Larry coming on too, because product knowledge is key and experience is key. And the difference between knowing what you're looking at or just reacting is called experience. And that's what Larry and I bring to the conversation. I hope you two enjoyed that. We'll have much more with Larry throughout the year. This is Chris. Chris Bean says, Damon and Larry, are you guys going to collaborate on all of our Bay Area teams? Would be very, very cool. Larry and I will be collaborating on a lot of things. Obviously, nothing moves the needle more than football once football starts. But yeah, once we get to Warriors season, Larry's a basketball junkie like me too, and we're going to be all over that. How about this? The single best sports talk show in the Bay Area is Damon and Larry talking about anything. I feel comfortable saying that. I hope you feel good about hearing it. I know Larry would endorse that. The show you never got from either KNBR or 95.7 The Game, the show you've always wanted, is the show that you're going to get right here. I'm looking forward to having a hell of a year covering Bay Area sports with my man Larry. And look, my man Ray Ratto. Actually, you could feel Ray in his defector column today. He got a little baseball romantic, and leave it to Ray to be the least romantic about sports guy you're ever going to see. Just to kind of wrap up what the Giants are looking at here, since we talked so much 49ers already with Larry. We got a 12:45 start this afternoon for Logan Webb. The Giants are looking to sweep the Reds. Hunter Green will try to be the man that prevents that from happening for Cincinnati. But last night, Alex Cobb's near no-hitter, it was special, man. And what does the analytical sabermetric crowd do more often than it feels like they even produce winning formulas? They remove romance. They remove drama. They remove an element of human interest from the game. And last night, the reason why Giants fans were so enamored with that game, well, number one, it's a no-hitter bid, so that's always exciting. But there was an element of humanity attached to what Alex Cobb was trying to do. And Ray in the defector today wrote a couple things. I just want to share it with you real quick. Again, Alex Cobb had his no-hitter spoiled with one out to go on his 125th pitch of the night. I thought for sure that they were going to instantly bring in someone to finish off that game. They didn't. They let him finish it, which I just thought was cool. As a matter of fact, as Ray points out, they didn't even get anybody up in the bullpen. Ray in the defector wrote, Kapler committed to Cobb's best start ever by not even getting anyone up in the bullpen, a blasphemous act of faith that surely would never have been contemplated. Had a third inning one hopper that was ruled not a hit and changed into an error by an official scorer on Casey Schmidt, or had Austin Slater not made that diving catch in short left center in the eighth inning, without those two potentially historical prompts, Cobb would have been on the hook after 8 innings, as the holy book of probability teaches, given that he was protecting a 6-0 Giants lead, and given the team's thin starting rotation, they would have needed as fresh a possible starter for the stretch run. But Cobb's outing was only the fourth 130th pitch start in the major leagues since 2018. That's incredible. Only the fourth 130 pitch start in the major league since 2018. If stories are to be fabricated from a happy ending for this mostly blah on toast team, it might start Tuesday night when Gabe Kapler invested in Alex Cobb's heart just as much as baseball season gets semi-serious. Maybe it's because the Giants have used fewer pitchers than any other team, just 20 when you scratch out position players. So maybe Kapler thought maybe the bullpen needed an off day. Well, let me tell you, Alex Cobb gave the bullpen an off day yesterday. Logan Webb hopefully goes deep, gets that bullpen to rest again today. You saw Kyle Harrison have an incredible home debut earlier this week on Monday night where he struck out 11. And all of a sudden, Giants sweep the Reds today. Momentum has officially moved back into the Giants clubhouse. Momentum that they have certainly lost playing better competition over an important 18-game stretch. So Uncle Mo could be back in San Francisco, which will make a team that still has a better than missing the playoffs chance of making the playoffs a little more interesting down the stretch. And that's all you can hope for as a baseball fan. Let's see what the Giants do. Let's see what the Giants do. We have somebody here a little earlier in the show when I asked Larry to give Kyle Shanahan a letter grade. Dominator 49ers says F- for the wasted draft picks. There is a group of fans out there who care more about draft picks than NFC championship game appearances. And you're all the biggest batch of broke-ass, know-nothing, just lucky to be here sports fans I have ever met. Like, seriously, man. It's a good thing Larry and I are here to spread the gospel of football, because there are an awful lot of heretics who are trying to spread their gospel of bullshit. Keep it here. Keep it locked on Damon Bruce, Larry Kreuger. You will become a smarter sports fan. I promise you. Almost all out of coffee here. Almost all out of coffee. A couple of other things before we hop into Club Plus today that I wanted to get to. Speaking of Levi's Stadium, Beyonce is at Levi's tonight, so be careful if you're driving around the South Bay a little bit later on. Beyonce traffic is coming for you this Wednesday night. It feels like Beyonce is, used to be, that's like the biggest tour of the summer. It feels like the side act, the side stage at Lollapalooza compared to what Taylor Swift is out there doing. So I'm sure Beyonce is going to have a huge crowd tonight, but watch her get off stage right when that curfew hits. She's not paying for that extra song or two. Taylor's over there printing $1 billion. So she's like, yeah, I'm going to go late. So Beyonce is a coming. Maybe there'll be a Jay-Z sighting in the Bay Area before it's all said and done. I saw Joe Pamplano, who I think is one of the more interesting guys to follow on Twitter. I subscribe to his Substack newsletter as well. He was talking about how nearly 40,000 fans traveled from the United States to Dublin for last Saturday's Notre Dame game against Navy. 32,000 of the 40 who traveled over there were there for Notre Dame. It represents the largest number of Americans traveling internationally for a single sporting event ever. So I guess that, it doesn't include a World Cup or an Olympics because that's not a singular sporting event. It is a tournament that goes on for a long time. So I don't think that's being counted into this, but that still shows you the power of Notre Dame and how much anyone who is associated with Notre Dame loves to also, because remember this is very important to know. Most people who love Notre Dame have never set foot on campus, couldn't get into Notre Dame. They just like being really, really Notre Dame-y and Irish. And they want to go back to Ireland. They want to pretend that they went to Notre Dame, and they want to visit the motherland in Ireland. So that's what happened right there. You got a whole bunch of people saying, let's go drink some Guinness. That's what really happened. We will have more to talk about as college football approaches, but I thought that was a really interesting stat that I wanted to share with you. And I want to thank Larry Kreuger for coming on by and spending some time talking about where the 49ers are as they get ready to step into Kyle Shanahan's 7th season as their head coach and general manager. Thank you for tuning in to the podcast today. If that's where you're listening to the show, it was great having you here. We're about to slip into Club Plus over on YouTube. But if you are listening to the podcast, thank you so much for doing so. And please do remember that sports don't build character, they reveal it. And like that, he's gone. I forgot to put in the breeze. And like that, he's gone. There you go. That feels better. Now let's get in a Club Plus. Make it sexy. Ooh, a little bit sexier. A lot sexier. What's going on, everyone? What do we have here? We'll begin with Gregis Khan. He says, my buttocks would tighten every single time Jimmy held the ball for longer than 2 seconds. I think his did too. Gregis, I think his did too. I got some pinned tweets that I saw from earlier. Want to say hello to Todd, who says, I can't believe that Cal and Stanford might end up moving to the ACC with SMU. That's crazy. It is. Money talks. It's crazy. You can't ever pretend that you care about academics again if you're willing to do that to your women's field hockey team. You know, football should operate outside of the rest of the athletic department. I mean, I think that that's a realization that everyone in college football is having, and they're having it too late after they've destroyed conferences and just destroyed tradition in so many different ways. It's like they had the right idea after everyone's wrong idea had been implemented. Irwin saying, hit that like button. Indeed, lots of people in here today. Please hit that like button. I certainly would appreciate it. This is from Andrew, who says, I turned on the radio the other day and noticed Damon wasn't on. Surprised. Damon was way more talented then. May you prosper doing your own thing. Well, number one, thank you. Hopefully I'm still talented now. And there is something that is about to happen. And that something is a massive swath of sports talk radio listeners who show up for football season and leave after football season. There are a ton of people who don't even realize that Ray and I are off the air in afternoons. So a second wave of massive disappointment from sports talk radio listeners is about to roll through the Bay Area as they find me and Ray now off the air. I'm glad that you found me over here, though. Andrew, thank you very much for finding me over here. I'm glad that you did. This is Bennett John Wayne saying $5.2 billion according to Forbes. The 49ers are the 6th most valuable team in the NFL, valued at $5.2 billion. Pay Nick Bosa already. I agree with you, but the overall team value is not directly related to Nick Bosa, because you got to fit Nick Bosa into your salary cap. No matter how much your team is worth, you all are dealing, every NFL team is working with the same salary cap. So that's where they got to fit him in. But I can also tell you that for a player like Nick Bosa, there are so many fuzzy numbers which to be manipulated and moved around means, look, we all know this. Is he going to be expensive? Yes. Is it going to be a slight overpay? Yes. Has he earned that slight overpay? Yes. No doubt. No doubt. But get it done. Get it done. You need that guy. He's not a desire. He's a necessity. If you're going to fancy yourself a Super Bowl contender, which the 49ers damn well better be fancying themselves a Super Bowl contender. Otis Bird III says 100-hour weeks. Yeah, I think he sleeps at the facility. You got a lot of these guys who sleep in facilities. I mean, they have a comfortable couch in their office and they spend several nights a week there. Coaching a football team is officially bad for a human being's health. It's why so many burn out so quickly. Leslie was excited about Larry's appearance today. Preach it, Larry. Larry does preach it whenever he comes here. We need Hard Knocks. Hey, look, it's going to be harder and harder to hold Hard Knocks off from eventually circling towards the 49ers. They've done an incredible job getting off of the wish list right now. There's no doubt about that. This is Flora Rupert saying Bosa should make similar to TJ Watt money. Oh, he should make more than TJ Watt. This is Jonathan says, give Bosa part ownership already. No, that's not going to be happening. RIP Cougar Rebel asks a legit question. Why are we calling them Washington? Is Commanders offensive now too? I call them Washington because Commanders sucks. It totally sucks. Now, I was never particularly bothered, even as a left coast living San Francisco total commie pinko liberal. The word Redskins never offended me. I was never uncomfortable saying it. But okay, the world moved in that direction. You chose Commanders? Stinky choice. I hate Commanders. I'll call them. I liked Washington football team. Just generic as the color beige more than I like Commanders. Nick J, and again, you understand how this works, Nick. Yeah, I don't give Nick Bosa over $32 million annual average value. I somehow give him $100 million guaranteed and somehow work around so it doesn't kill your cap. That's what I do too. Like I said, there's 3 ways to satisfy you are now the NFL's highest paid defender, and you can satisfy it in 3 different ways: total contract value, total guaranteed money, total annual average value. Pick one. Or maybe in Nick Bosa's case, it's a pick 2. But you don't get all 3. No one gets all 3. Fork-tailed devil. Again, fork-tailed devil would have been better than Commanders for the Washington team. Bring in Balky. Well, I don't know if I'm coming back to the Bay Area, but thank you very much for the vote of confidence. Chappie Ramirez saying Bay Area radio OGs taking me back to your 20s. Taking me and Larry back to our 20s, early 30s anyways. Thank you very much for tuning in, man. Hit that like button. I still feel funny saying that. Otis Bird III talking a little baseball last night. That Slater catch was Gregor Blanco-esque. It really was. I mean, it's the one moment where I thought, okay, he's going to throw a no-hitter tonight. He is absolutely going to throw a no-hitter tonight. I always doubt the no-hitter, right? You have to. Jonathan says, Mike Talkman makes catches like that. Dude, Mike Talkman is an unbelievable outfielder. He's got a great glove. It's nice, says Otis Bird, to see the Giants have a bounce-back series. Like, look, they needed some mojo in that clubhouse. They really did. They've had 2 pitching performances from Kyle Harrison and Alex Cobb that have got to have the dauber pointing up in that clubhouse. After that, here comes Logan Webb this afternoon. Logan Webb, he has a really good start. Then you get into your bullpen bullshit for a couple of games, and you're back to Kyle Harrison. Here we go. I mean, go play some winning baseball. I dare you guys. They got the Padres and the Cubs on the road when they finish off the Cincinnati Reds. So they're about to hit the road again. True Blue Forever says, hey, the A's knocked the Mariners out of first. Let's give it up. There you go. Should the parade go counterclockwise or clockwise around Lake Merritt? Oh, man. Oh, how about this? A little jingle jangle. Thank you very much. Easy Tino. dropping a super chat here saying, doesn't the full salary have to be put in escrow? Maybe the Yorks don't have to make that kind of investment. No, look, no, they got that money. They got that money. The Yorks got money beyond just owning the 49ers. They got the money. They're not on paper billionaires, the Yorks. They're billionaires. So they're okay. But good question. And yes, you do have to put it in escrow. Erwin is hoping Larry stays hydrated on a hot day in the East Bay. Thank you very much. Erwin, you care. Hopefully some blackened whiskey. Again, we want him hydrated. We don't want him too drunk. We're going pig in a pickle, baby. Pig in a pickle meetup. What? Hey, we'll be at the Emeryville Pig in a Pickle at 12:30 on Friday. Do with that information what you will. No fakery here, DB. Please. Fish and chips? Never. Never, ever, ever. Eric Hernandez, don't forget the brisket chili. Is it brisket chili or is it brisket mac and cheese? Either way, it's coming to the table. It's definitely coming to the table. Damon, when do memberships start? Well, thank you for asking. The answer is soon. We got to make sure that our subscribers are taken care of. We got to make sure that my sponsors are taken care of. I got people signing up for too many different things. It's too many asks. So I will say this, though, here at the end of Club Plus today, do me a favor. Like, you really want to go ahead, you want to support the show, you're thinking about doing a little gambling this upcoming football season, I got two places to go that will serve you well. To make your bets, go to mybookie.ag, sign up, put a couple $100 in there, use promo code Damon. They'll match it up to 50% of your deposit, up to $1,000. Make me look good. Let them see that promo code is getting used. And I'm going to say the same thing, even though I don't have a promo code to give you. Bottomlinebets.com. Check them out. Check them out. Open up another tab in your browser. Go to bottomlinebets.com right now. Daily, weekly, and monthly handicapping advice is available. If you're interested in profiting from some of the bets that you'll be making, check out bottomlinebets.com. Start getting yourself familiar with the site, earn it a little trust, and then boom, maybe you will be interested in the advice that my friend Stefan, a Vegas inside the casino handicapper, is given out. So check out bottomlinebets.com. Check out mybookie.ag. Sign up for one, sign up for both. Use promo code Damon for mybookie.ag. Make me look good in front of my new sponsors. I would certainly appreciate that. Thank you all for being a part of the show today. This was a really good one. Hold on. Once the ganja jar opens, other people like to throw in there at the end. How about my guy? Talking about sponsors that you love, my man Ike. I listen to Damon and Larry talk about anything. Well, thank you very much, Ike. We certainly appreciate that. You have been rocking with us for a long, long time. Michelle Haberman, again, one of the women of the Plus. Michelle Haberman says, Bruce and Krug, definitely watching that. Yeah, we're going to have an awful lot coming up this football season. I can promise you all that. Let's see what else we got. We still got a lot of people commenting, coming on in here. Leslie saying, I'm down with Damon and Larry. Well, thank you, Leslie. We are down with you. You tell them, Damon. All right. Okay, I will. Thank you very much. Oh, like I said, jingle, jangle, jingle, jangle. It starts to happen. I was at Scotty Garlett's bleeping Paul O'Neill. Broke it up with 2 outs in the ninth. There you go. Yossarian was there. Dropping a little super chat love on the Larry Kreuger. I watched the Cincinnati Reds almost get no hit once myself memory. This is El Camino Dorado saying, Kyle's in 4 of the last 7 NFC championship games, and fans are like, fire him. Yeah. Yeah, it's nuts. It's nuts. I think I'll have another Guinness. Leslie, you are after my own heart. Seriously. I'm a big Guinness guy. Love the Guinness. I actually heard that the Guinness in Ireland truly is better than the Guinness we even get over here because they still use wooden or steel barrels, and to have the kegs shipped over, they got to be in like rubber kegs, and that changes the Guinness a little. I'll eventually get to Ireland. I'll eventually get there. Not for a Notre Dame game, though. Beaver Boys say, take off your shirt. Oh, you want to party? You want to party? Is that it? You want to be titillated? Seriously. OnlyFans made $5 billion last year. If I'm taking off my shirt, I'm getting paid for it. And if I'm taking off the pants, you're all going to pay for it. So let's leave the nudity to the professionals. You know, there's absolutely some truth here saying True Oracle. Bulky built the Jags into a playoff team. Don't hear anyone talking crap anymore. Hey, Trent's made a lot of really good picks. Look, Trent was really good at elements of being a general manager. He knew linebackers. He knew defense. He knew trench warfare. He was as blind in the wide receiver department as a general manager can be. Mike and San Bruno. Can't wait for another bulky Thanksgiving draft. I'll take mashed potatoes, Damon. Did I just hear Super Dave Osborne? He did sound just like Super Dave Osborne. The bulky impression. There you go. People love the bulky impression. Could take that out on tour. What do we got here from Nathaniel? I miss Damon's Lowell Cohn. Oh, my goodness. Oh, you know what, Postman and Capitola? You were right. Damon, you can take the headphones off now. I can. You're right about that. I totally forgot. I just get them in there. I get them on. I can hear things better, like when I do this. We're getting ready, baby. Maximum football around the corner. Ooh, how about this? Rick Mightybone Feliciano says, Damon, I poured some black and whiskey over Haagen-Dazs butter pecan ice cream. Woo. By the way, my little plug just fell out here. That sounds phenomenal. By the way, I'm a sucker for, but I like old man flavors. I like butter pecan. I like pistachio. I like rum raisin. My wife says that my ice cream choices are even like inappropriate for my age. She's like, those are 65-year-old man ice cream choices, not 48-year-old man ice cream choices. I think like a 65-year-old man, and I'm proud of it. Thank you very much, Rick Mightybone Feliciano. Blackened whiskey over Haagen-Dazs butter pecan. That sounds great. Have you ever had Humphrey Slocum, the secret breakfast? It's vanilla ice cream with a little whiskey and cornflakes in it. It's phenomenal. Next time you're around Humphrey Slocum, get yourself some of the secret breakfast. It is good. Whiskey float's got to be good. No doubt about it. Sean just dropping a cheers. Cheers, cheers. Thank you very much. What else we got? Damon, I got an idea for a t-shirt. JJ Raider. How about Damon and Larry with Godzilla and Freddy Krueger on it? It's a pretty good idea. That's a pretty good idea. By the way, wait and you see the new Godzilla we're going to be dropping on you soon enough. More ferocious than ever. Rockin' New Air 84. You know I love you, Damon. Love you too, Trent. Here's the thing. Trent and I actually talked to each other like on the phone. He called me to celebrate it was my 4,000th show or whatever. And I tried to get him on that day to make fun of the now infamous Thanksgiving draft segment. Again, let me ask you, when 95.7 The Game plays its greatest hits album, are they going to use that? Because if they don't, they're a bunch of liars. That's one of the great segments in sports talk radio history. It really was. It's an unparalleled, bulky voice. A.J. Jenkins. A.J. Jenkins. A man with more letters than touchdowns. A.J. Jenkins. This is what I got. A great Balky, a great Ralph, a great Bochy, and a great Lowell. Thank you very much. I'm ready to go on tour. Ready to go on tour. Erwin, you're right about this. Pistachio ice cream is fabulous. This is Michelle saying butter pecan too. You're right about that. Fish and chips saying, hey, maximum ice cream talk. Humphreys is my favorite. Again, we are in maximum ice cream talk right now. There you go. Damon, I'm 67 years old, Giants Niner fan. Butter pecan is my favorite. Again, that's experience talking. That's experience talking. Ice cream, cornflakes, and bourbon. Trust me. Trust me. Stan Humphrey? No, not Stan Humphrey. It's not that Humphrey. That's it. I mean, that's a walk-off right there, right? That's a walk-off. Stan Humphrey? Rockin' New Era 84. Hey, thanks to all of you for tuning in. We went long today. We had a reason to. We had so much to talk with Larry about. It was great hanging out with you. Thank you for being such a special part of all this. I'm so excited for football season to be here. Again, please go ahead. Check out mybookie.ag. Use promo code Damon when you sign up. Go ahead and check out my handicappers site, bottomlinebets.com. And of course, Ike's, Uncle Boys, Blackened Whiskey. Thanks to all of them, and thanks to you as well. Love ya, love ya, love ya. And yes, fish and chips. He says, please leave Club Plus the way you found it. Oh, indeed. Clean up your own mess. Help out your server. Bus your own table. Thank you very much. It was a fun Wednesday. And the only thing I'll let you know is that, you don't have to go home. You just can't stay here.